Yes, thank you. I have been asked to talk about climate criteria for agriculture commodities, and I would like to talk about three topics. I would like to start to talk about climate-friendly agriculture. We heard already what's going on the ground about the production of the crops. In a second part, I would like to analyze some different approaches, and that's exactly that we will have, at the end of the day, different tools with different targets, and then start with challenges and next steps. Land use change. This is something which is related to the discussion you had already yesterday. And if we consider agriculture production, crop production, we have to face again that 58% of deforestation is driven by agriculture. This means land use change for arable land, for pastures, especially in areas outside Europe, but also in Europe there is an ongoing land use change with high carbon emissions. And the second thing is that agriculture globally accounts to 40% of greenhouse gas emissions. This is CO2, it's nitrox oxide, it's methane, mainly from livestock. And as an environmental NGO, as WWF, our target is to reduce these emissions. And I would like to talk about what are the reasons for these emissions. And as already mentioned, it is the conversion of land, the conversion of high carbon stock. This means the conversion of forest, the conversion of peatland, conversion of wetland, but also of grassland, where we have a lot below ground carbon. It's about soil erosion, and the picture, one of the pictures at the right-hand side, the one in the middle, that's a picture which you found when you're traveling through Argentina, through the Chaco area, where there is an ongoing land conversion with high problems and erosion. It's the use of fertilizer combined with energy use, it's use of chemicals, fuel at farm level, but it's still ongoing biomass burning, and it's the livestock. And that's a chart you had already yesterday, but just to emphasize, if we're going to analyze the emissions in the food chain, it once more emphasizes that it is a production on the ground. This means how are we going to produce, where are you going to produce the crops? And this is what we would like, or what we are discussing within WWF, but also externally, is what does it mean if we talk about a climate-friendly agriculture practice? This means how to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in agriculture on the ground. And this has to do with the soil, and we have to think more and more how we deal with soil fertility, reduction of erosion. And it's about the no-tillage system. I have put a question mark on it, because no-tillage, as one hand, helps to keep carbon in the ground. On the other hand, it's strongly linked with GMO practice, and that's something what we as WWF do not support. So this is a pro and con on the non-tillage. That's why there is the question mark. It's about the improvement of fertilizer application. It's about irrigation, reduction of agrochemicals, but also, and this is important if we talk about land use change, at the end of the day we need better yields, we need higher yields, and how to get to better and higher yields, and then not to enlarge agricultural areas. This means we need better seed, which is not GMO, I would like to emphasize this, and it's about better cultivation techniques. And this has to do, and that's what we should go more and more ahead, is training from farmers on the ground. 80% worldwide are smallholders, are small farmers, which need training to know better cultivation knowledges. And it's about post-harvest loss. That's also 1/3 of our food is thrown away in Germany, but also it's a post-harvest loss in the production countries. And we talked already in the discussion, or the question was, what could we do? And this is something which is what I would like to address to the companies. There are a lot of possibilities how you could help on the ground to change agricultural practice, to reduce impact like water, like fertilizer, pesticides, and then interact. This means a reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. And the one of the key elements, and that is the training of the farmers. And this is a project which is running in India for now 3 years, where we really have a reduction of input and an increase of income. And it's 9,000 farmers in this case on 50,000 hectares, and it improves at the end of the day the livelihood. And by the way, this project is financed by a Swedish, international Swedish company. So this is also something how companies who really take sustainability serious could step in and improve. The question is, and that was also the question you had already yesterday and today, is what is the right tool? So the question is, what does it mean if I talk about a sustainable production, how to start, where to start? And there are different tools, different methodologies, and I think you all agree there is not a silver bullet, but it will always be the question, what is the aim, what do I want to achieve, and what is the right tool? And very often it will be a combination of different tools. And what we've done as WWF, this is only a short snapshot, we have analyzed on a very roughly way the different methodologies and tools, and a little bit to indicate where is the emphasis of an instrument, and maybe also where's the strengths and the weakness. And let me start with the carbon footprint. What we have done, we have considered the whole supply chain. This means from the production on the ground to the end of life. And we have brought together a long list of criteria. And for example, if we consider the carbon footprint, as it mentioned, is focused on climate, but carbon footprint doesn't consider biodiversity, doesn't consider endangered species, and it doesn't have any social issues in. So with the carbon footprint, you only have a snapshot on a specific part. And it's the same with the life cycle assessment, where we once again don't have biodiversity criteria in. So we don't talk about tiger corridors, we don't talk about buffer zones, we don't talk about where a production takes place, and we don't talk about the whole social issue is not in a life cycle assessment. And this is getting more and more important for a company. If you talk about reputation, consider all the problems we had with the palm oil at the moment, where there is a huge movement and campaigning starting mainly because of social issues. Or coffee is a good example. And that's, for example, the water footprint was a very clear focus only on water. So this is, we have a tool, we have a target, and we capture only a specific snapshot or a specific criteria. And that's the same if we consider the certification schemes. This is an example from the Forest Stewardship Council, from the FSC, which is focused on changing on the ground. So the FSC is not having, for example, a greenhouse gas target which goes beyond the farm level. So this is still an open question, but on the other hand, FSC and also the other certification schemes, they consider land use change, biodiversity, they have reference date or let's say cutoff date, in which you are really a fixed date where it's not allowed to do land use change later than that date. They have fresh water in, and they have the social issue in, and methodologies to identify high biodiversity, high conservation value areas. And especially, I would like to have a focus on the certification schemes. And there is a broad range of certification schemes which are highly accepted. These are the multi-stakeholder initiatives, most of them WWF is or has been involved in, and which tackles one of the main drivers for land conversion. That's palm oil at the moment, that's soy, that's sugarcane, that's the timber pulp industry, it's cotton. But it's also all what has to do with vegetables, tropical fruits, and since recently also the high biofuel and also the renewable source, the bio plastic sector. And the question is, or the challenge is, how do this tool tackle the question of greenhouse gas reduction, of climate-friendly agriculture, and to take it in advance, it's really a challenge for all these certification schemes. And I have figured out 3 examples. One example is the roundtable on sustainable palm oil. The RSPO has no really greenhouse gas criteria. So what is mentioned in, and that's mainly in all of these multi-stakeholder initiatives, it says plans to reduce emissions. But there is no distinct target, and there are no really measures behind which really leads to a reduction of greenhouse gas. And one critical point, what we have figured out, is that it's still allowed in a certain level to plant on peatland, and there is at the moment a review process of the P and C of the principle and criteria of the RSPO, and we hope that we will be successful and have really a ban that there is no oil palms any longer on peat. At the moment it's allowed up to 30 centimeters, but we think it should be a 0 peatland. And what is also a challenge, there is RSPO has developed a greenhouse gas tool, but which is still under development, and it's still not confirmed. And especially in these multi-stakeholder processes, there are the growers who don't want to have any more restrictions. So what is discussed right now is that there will be an RSPO as a kind of mainstream and a voluntary add-on climate tool, which makes life really a little bit difficult, especially if you talk about labeling, what does it mean at the end of the day, and that makes it difficult also for the companies. And it's the same with the RTS, the Roundtable on Responsible Soy. It's the same situation that it means efforts are made to reduce emission, but it is no clear greenhouse gas target. The only issue, or the only, there is only a greenhouse gas reduction target linked to the biofuel sector, and the biofuel sector is for the time being the only sector where we have mandatory greenhouse gas reduction target. But in the biofuel sector, you also could use default values. So this is something which doesn't bring any change on the ground. And I have 3 minutes left. And there is one other scheme. This is the Rainforest Alliance scheme, where the Rainforest has started with a climate module, which is, from our perspective, a very good approach. They have 2 focuses. The one focus is the mitigation, and the second one is the adaptation. It's still in a pilot phase, and it's once again a voluntary add-on. So when I skip this is about the biofuel schemes. So let me make some conclusions. One conclusion is that currently most of the standards and multi-stakeholder initiatives don't include greenhouse gas reduction targets. They have it mainly as a voluntary add-on or only for the biofuel sector. The second thing is that there is no one size does not fit for all. So it will be always a combination of different tools, of different approaches to go really for a sustainable production. And as WWF, we say certification, go beyond certification, go beyond carbon footprint and LCA. And I have 2 more slides and 1 minute. This is what we think it is important to do a stepwise approach, to start with a risk analysis. This could be a hotspot. We also have developed a tool. And then to talk about action, mitigation, monitoring, evaluation, and knowledge. And this is the last one. So if we talk about a sustainable commodity sourcing, this means start with the assessment of the risk, identify what is your target, what is your aim, what is the right tool, assess the risk, get more transparency about the sourcing, where are the products coming from. This could be then a water risk, to minimize water risk, to minimize carbon, and that's very important, not only to have figures on the paper, to have figures from a carbon footprint, figures from an LCA, a certificate, but go on the ground and really implement best management practice. So, and that's it.
Thank you very much.